The average marketing major makes somewhere between $60,000 to $80,000 a year. The average skilled trades worker after they graduate can make upward of $75,000 to $100,000 a year. Does every kid have to go to university? Student debt in the US is at all-time high record levels. You had gone to college, you paid all this money, you had these fancy jobs, and then you're like, the thing is, well, I want to go be a window cleaner. Like, moms don't love that.
The tide is turning in this country, and people are starting to realize sitting in the office all day isn't for me.
For a lot of people, it doesn't make them happy being behind a screen. Why does it feel like we're working harder and we're getting no further in this country? What the fuck's going on? Hey, it's Codie Sanchez, and welcome back to the BigDeal podcast. For those who don't just want to be rich, but free and do what it actually takes to get there. I love this podcast because I love talking to friends about how they made their millions and helping business owners solve their problems. It's fulfilling. I love sharing all the secrets. But when I can't meet in person, there's only one tool I use. It's called Riverside. Riverside ensures I can talk to someone anywhere in the world, recorded in 4K, so the quality of the video matches the quality of the humans you're listening to. Riverside records separate audio and video tracks so we can easily cut out those awkward interruptions that are my least favorite part of interviews. They have in-platform editing software based off a 99% accurate AI transcription. And if that's not simple enough, they take AI one step further for their show notes. It summarizes your entire content into an SEO optimized description, and chapters all automatic, saves me a ton of money. So you can use Riverside for podcast interviews, panel discussions, presentations, webinars, more. And best of all, it's simple. Try Riverside for yourself with link in the description. Use code CODY for an exclusive discount. I get a deal, you get a deal. The contrarian idea this week is that blue-collar workers might actually be happier than white-collar workers. And what if they're actually starting to make more money? There's this quote from Mike Rowe that I loved that said, people in trade work are balanced people who do unthinkable work. And they have this amazing sort of symmetry to their life because of it. And Mike Rowe should know because he ran dirty jobs for, probably a decade. And the research actually goes to show that 86% of blue-collar workers are satisfied with their jobs. So they're not only happier, I think a lot of them are probably more skilled in their fields than white-collar workers today. Let's look at the data. And we found some really interesting things when it comes to, are you happier if you work with your hands versus not? So are you happier being traditionally blue-collar versus white-collar? And the statistics are actually fascinating. Like, for instance, 86% of blue-collar workers are satisfied with their jobs in this survey. You can see it linked below. In fact, a bunch more people are applying for trade schools instead of vocational schools, more than 16% increase in vocation-focused community colleges since 2018. And, there was this quote from this guy, Alex Cohen, that I just loved. We can throw it up on the screen here, basically, that said, the average blue-collar trade worker is 10x more skilled than the average FANG product manager. Now, skilled is in the eye of the beholder, but this hit home for me because student debt in the US is at all-time high record levels. We are having universities funded by our parents' tax dollars, our tax dollars, while we spend our lives paying them off because it is the only type of debt that is non-recourse, meaning that if you go bankrupt, guess what? Your student loan debt follows you. Yet we have told an entire generation or two or three of kids that the only way for them to progress in society is for them to go to traditional universities that cost tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to get the good white-collar job that your parents didn't have because they actually spent their time trying to make your life better. And so they worked hard so you have an easier life, right? That's what my parents always told me. And yet, we're getting out of these four-year institutions and we're in a 9-to-5 that is really like an 8-to-7, commuting longer distances than ever. The average commute has increased by 30% in the U.S. since 2020, and increasingly not making more money with wages stagnating as well for most white-collar workers. So I started to dive into what the fuck's going on, and why does it feel like we're working harder and we're getting no further in this country? And I think one of the reasons is this. We were told white-collar jobs were good, and yet were we just a cog in a machine? And so we went to the data and we found out a couple of different things that are fascinating. One, that 86% of blue-collar workers are happy with their job. They're happier on average than white-collar workers, who 50% on average say that they do not like their jobs. We're finding, in fact, that these trade and vocational schools have a stigma with the younger generations, that 74% perceive that vocational schools over a traditional four-year university are a good idea. and that 79% of people said their parents wanted them to go to college, while only 5% say they wanted them to go to vocational school. So our parents are telling us, go rack debt. The government's saying your tax dollars are going to go towards universities, but you don't really get any benefit of that. The universities get to increase their prices by double digits every year. And oh, by the way, you're going to have to pay it off for, 5 or 10 years on average, and be happy about it because now you're educated and you're going to have all this opportunity. The contrarian idea this week is that you'd be better off going to a vocational school. That's the idea. That in fact, it seems like they're happier. And look at the average wage between a marketing grad at an average institution and a skilled trades worker from a vocational school. The average marketing major makes somewhere between $60,000 to $80,000 a year. The average skilled trades worker after they graduate can make upward of $75,000 to $100,000 a year. So if you're happier and you make more money and you get a little bit more vitamin D and less LED blue screen, I think there might be something here. And I realized this week because I went to a coal mine with a couple friends of mine where I went, 650 feet down, 4 miles underground. There's only 2 entrances into the coal mine. And going in, I had all these ideas, you guys, God, these poor guys. This looks like such hard work. Are they safe? Am I going to be safe down there? Can't believe we're still doing this. Can't machines do it? Then the weirdest thing happened. First of all, one of the miners, when I was down there, when I asked him, I said, hey, why do you do this? And he said, well, I've been doing it more than 30 years. And I said, okay. What made you want to do it? He said, well, my dad did it. I said, all right, that makes sense. You followed in your father's footsteps. And he goes, yeah, but it's more than that. Let me tell you why. Now, right before this giant machine had plowed through a wall. It's called cross punching. So imagine the ceiling's only 5.5 feet tall. You have to walk. It's called a coal miner's walk. You walk hunched over to the side with your head down and to the left and your hands behind your back to support your hips. And so I'm hunched over, walking 4 miles in underneath the ground, 650 feet below the surface, thinking that this place was a little dark and scary. And then this huge machine claws through a wall across from me and punches through, collecting coal, sort of sparking a little bit, and this wild noise and the ground shaking. And then it pulls back and it grabs the coal back into it. And when I talked to the coal miner right after we had seen this, he said, you know why I do this? Do you know why I work in the coal mines? He goes, go stand over there. So I walk over 5 feet where the machine had just been. And he said, that ground that you're standing on right now, no man has ever stood there before. You know who else can say that? Astronauts. He goes, some people go to the sky, some people go underground. 2 different types of explorers. And I thought about that as I was watching these guys. You get a little dirt on your face. You've got these big, huge machines. They're pretty big guys with lots of muscles. Now they're quiet. I went over to a group of them and I was joking with them and said, you guys want a picture? And they kind of smiled and looked at me and looked away because they didn't. And when I talked to one of the lead foremen, let's call him, I said, they're kind of quiet guys. They don't say a ton. And he said, well, have you met a lot of farmers? We don't say many words. We just do many tasks. And the coal mine was sort of filled with these short, crisp sentences, the likes of which those of us who podcast and talk all day for a living on Zoom and have turned into knowledge workers where the words that come out of our mouth equate to the amount of money we make. We don't understand this world. We don't understand a world in which somebody would point and tell you that I do this job because no man has ever walked there before, and really say nothing else besides that. And, as I was talking to another group of them about what's happening down below, they said, where else besides the military can you find a group of hardened men doing hard things together, where one decision impacts every other human, and thus you have to operate as a team and as a unit as opposed to an individual? How many of you feel more connected than ever? Like you've got a tribe, an incredible community of people, like you're never alone, like you're not isolated, like you wish you could be on your phone more. I think the answer is not very many of us feel like that. These guys had this community built in. I remember a quote, the fastest way to long friendships are hard times. The fastest way to short friendships are meaningless times. It's probably why your high school friends, your college friends kind of come and go. It was short, sweet, beautiful moments, not iron sharpens iron. I thought about that a lot with these coal miners. And as I went deeper, a few other things came to mind. These guys do this job for 30, 40, 50 years or more. They don't retire. And I asked one of them why, and he said, you'd have to pull my cold, dead body out of here. And he said, because in a world where we're all stuck to our phones, you can't get service down here. So you're down there for 10-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts sometimes, no service whatsoever. Like, can you guys imagine a more different life? And yet, I was talking to another guy who they call Strawberry, and his statement was fascinating. He's like, if you watch news stories about us, it's about how dangerous it is, about how bad it is. I bet if you tell your friends you went down to a coal mine, they're going to say, well, was it toxic? Well, did they have problems with coal dust? They won't realize that 1/3 of the world is driven by energy derived from coal. So you turn off coal mining and you take away 1/3 of the world's energy. Think about that for a second. And in a part of Appalachia where the average income is below poverty level, coal miners make 6 figures a year. An incredible job that's hard and dirty. But just because it's hard and dirty, does that mean it's bad? When did clean fingernails equate to happy lives? And I think the point of the matter is here that they might not. I want you to speak to Brandon, who is the founder of a company that I am now one of the biggest investors in. I just bought a company called Resi Brands that I co-own now with the founders. And it's a franchise company for people doing trade labor. And I want you to hear from Brandon something that I've realized and become really passionate about, that the dirty work is often the important work.
Bring the band in. Let's go.
Brandon, I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
I think we were sold a lie that being vitamin D deprived keyboard monkeys was the way to go, that we wanted to sit in Excel behind a screen in a cubicle working for somebody else all day, when in reality, there might be more joy found outside. I wasn't sure though. Then I started meeting people like you. So really quickly, tell them where you came from and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. My career started, went to University of Arkansas, graduated there in 2017, and went straight into corporate world. Walmart headquarters in Bentonville, Arkansas. There's no windows at the headquarters. They're working on it. They're building a new campus, but that's soon. From there, I knew I wanted to be there, but I knew it wasn't for long term. So I came back to Austin, jumped into the financial world, kind of like you, kind of an analyst role, and I was in an office by myself all day, and it was tough. And I knew that wasn't it for me either. This is like classic millennial, right? Jumped then to the live music business. That was in December of 2019 and got laid off 6 months later because COVID, live music doesn't work. That's when Pinks was started in June of 2020. You're absolutely right. Like, the cool jobs coming out of college are the commercial real estate jobs, being a lawyer, being a doctor, doing whatever. And there's something wrong with those jobs. It just wasn't for me. So within 2 months of starting Pinks and Carter and I buzzing around town in an 04 Chevy Tahoe, just cleaning windows.
Yeah, explain to him what Pinks is, because you're wearing, like, if you guys could see him on YouTube, he's looking fly right now. He's got on what I actually said to Carter. I was like, yeah, this is a great hipster uniform. He was like, excuse me, this is timeless. This is timeless. And it is. It's like what I would describe as sort of a classic, maybe 1950s inspired, 1960s inspired tradesman uniform that's beautifully designed for a window cleaning service that you two started.
That's exactly right. And that was the whole purpose of Pinks, is we wanted to flip the script on blue collar. So yeah, you're exactly right. Pinks we're a window cleaning company. We do exterior cleaning, pressure washing, gutter cleaning, soft washing, all of that. And basically started just Carter and I buzzing around town, doing it all the work ourselves. Within 2 months of us starting this exterior cleaning company, branding it out because we knew we wanted to flip the script on blue collar and tell a different story that, hey, this is a great job. It's fun. It's cool. Within 2 months of us starting it, we told ourselves, if our old jobs call us back and offer us a job back with even double the salary, we're not going back.
We're telling her to pound sand.
Yeah.
Wait a second. So what did your moms say when you told them that you were leaving? You had gone to college, you paid all this money, you had these fancy jobs, and then you're like, the thing is, well, I want to go be a window cleaner. Like, moms don't love that.
No. Well, our moms are amazing, and they were supportive from the very beginning. It was a lot of our mentors that told us, hey, when are you going to get a real job? Hey, like, do you really want to spend your 40 hours cleaning windows and power washing driveways? And we had to fight that. And we were super insecure to start off because we bought that lie that the good job is commercial real estate guy, the finance guy, the lawyer guy, whatever. And we had to get over ourselves, and we had to die to ourselves, die to our pride to really believe what we were doing, that without the blue collar services, our cities would be an absolute mess.
Absolutely.
And so
fair.
I think we said that at the very beginning, but we didn't actually believe it till 3 months in.
Yeah. Well, what was interesting is I rode around with you guys and, cleaned some windows. I think I did a pretty good job, actually.
You were amazing.
What I noticed, and we've felt it here even before, is we'll do, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours of work in the office here. Even podcasting, which people think is fun, and it is.
Yeah.
And then we will get out to film YouTube videos in the street.
Right.
It's in Austin. It's 102 degrees outside. We're sweating, makeup running off my face. And it's my favorite time of the day.
Yeah.
Because there is just nothing like being around other humans, actually moving your body and doing things. And I think we've forgotten that in this country. And, I think the interesting part is you could say, well, maybe Brandon and Carter are just weirdos. And
we're super weird.
You are kind of weird. But, 2 young, good-looking dudes, full capacity, intelligent, deciding to go in the trades, they must be weird. But then you've sort of amassed an army of people just like you.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the guy I met yesterday, the former Marine, who's now my best bud. You've brought other young men on who are skilled, and they're thrilled to be part of cleaning windows, which people might not even believe.
Yeah, the tide is turning in this country, and people are starting to realize maybe sitting in the office all day isn't for me. I mean, I just think about how we were created as human beings. We're designed to connect. We're not designed to just sit in a room by ourselves or work from home and just be in our room all day by ourselves, behind a 11-inch screen. That's why we created Pinks. That's why we're franchising the business, because we want to get people out of that. But as far as our laborers go, whether it's our franchisees or guys in the field, the personality is guys that said, hey, they're young dudes, college isn't for me, I want to do something different. Maybe they worked in a coffee shop or in a restaurant, but they're tired of showing up to the same place, interacting with the same kitchen staff every single day. While at Pinks and with a lot of other service companies, you have a lot of freedom. You get to get in the car, you're not with your boss, you get to buzz around town, help customers, you kind of own the relationship, and you get to make people happy by giving stellar service all over the city or all over the town. It's yours, and then you get tipped, and then you get to go wherever you want for lunch. And it's a great situation.
Yeah, you guys do a lot of stuff that I think is cool that usually tech companies did, which is you give guys some cash for lunch. They get to go wherever they want in town, but talk about why you do it from a couple different perspectives.
For sure. I mean, from a monetary perspective, we say $15 a day per guy, and it's so good for culture. Because normally a service member or service company guy, they pack their lunch, or one guy goes to McDonald's, one guy packs lunch, and they're not eating together.
They're just in the car.
Yeah,
it's hot. They're not engaging.
Or one guy's inside, eating at McDonald's. One guy's in the truck eating a sandwich he brought.
Yeah,
we want the guys to commune together because, again, it's a core belief. We designed we're supposed to be together. We're better together than apart. Also, just what it does for our workers, when we pay for their lunch, it shows that we care. Yeah. And it's just one less decision that they have to make for the day.
Yeah.
We try to just limit the decisions that they have on their plate. And it's just great for retention. I mean, it's good for so many reasons. I think we spent $40,000 on lunches last year, but it's worth every damn penny because our guys stay, they like what they do, they feel a freedom. And one of the best parts is when guys come into a restaurant wearing the Pinks get up, it's marketing.
Yeah.
We get a lot of clients just from guys buzzing around town, eating lunches at places, wearing the uniform.
One of our sayings is you want to get paid like a pro, dress like a pro.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that has been lost in trades and services is we've lost the pro mentality.
Right.
And so I think this idea of dressing a certain way, if you want to be taken a certain way, is really critical. The human brain gauges people in less than a millisecond. And so in less than 1 second, you have a chance to have your very first impression. And if your first impression is, I've got on this kind of smart, cool uniform, and I take care of myself personally, and I've got this cool car behind me, well, then you're probably going to attract a different level of person. Every
interview we do, we're wearing this.
Yeah.
And it sets a tone for our employees. But also when our employees put on the uniform, it does something for them mentally.
Yeah.
It's I'm showing up. It's time to work. I got the uniform on. It's time to get to it.
I wonder how much of that is also like similar to the military, actually, because my husband, obviously in the military for a long time, and I used to joke with him and call it an outfit. And he was like, just kind of got to him. And he was like, this is a uniform. And he kind of explained to me what a uniform meant. He's like, when I am wearing this, I am a representative of the armed forces. And it means something to be able to wear this uniform. Like we screen for it and there's a reputation associated with it. And I think often in the era post 2020 of COVID, where we all wore pajamas for most of our year, we've lost that, right? Like you forget what it means to put on something that changes you into a different character for a moment.
Absolutely. And it builds so much trust within yourself, trust that, hey, my team member's wearing the same thing as me, and then trust in the community.
Yeah.
People know the Pink's uniform, and when our guys show up, they know they're going to get a friendly person that's on time, that is reliable, and that is background checked.
Let's talk about your worst day as a Pink's employee. Like I think sometimes we can cherry pick things. Like there is a lot of very hard things about the trades and doing things with your work in manual labor. Like give the tough side of it too, the cons.
Oh my gosh. So many tough days. Whether just like the physical labor of it, where you're up at 7 or 6 on a job site, on a construction site, but you're getting held up because you didn't go through the safety protocol with the superintendents, and now you have to sit there for 2 hours and just wait and go through this stupid training. That is a terrible day. Also, when it's 110 outside and you have 5 hours of work left and you're chafing and it sucks and it's hot and the customer's picky, that's no fun. I would say one of our hardest days, but then that turned good, was when it was at the very beginning. We were at one of Carter's friend's house. We drove all the way to Houston to clean a house because, early on, you'll take any job.
Yeah.
And so we drove to Houston, and we were cleaning one of Carter's friends from high school's houses. And he was in the commercial real estate world, and he was working from home because it was in the heat of COVID. And both of us, as we're cleaning basically a peer's house, felt super insecure. This guy is in his home office, beautiful house in the Heights, and he's like cranking away on calls and emails. And we are like, excuse me, can I clean the window behind your desk? And all that. So we get back in the car, and both of us express this insecurity we felt. And it was a low. We're like, man, he's crushing it, doing these commercial real estate deals, and we are cleaning his house while he's working. So we drove home, and as we're driving, we're just like thinking, like talking to each other, praying, and we're just like, man, how cool is it that we got to add value to someone's house? How many of our friends can say that they got to add value to their buddy's house and like do him like a favor, like do a service for him that was efficient, affordable, and that he needed and wanted. And so from that moment, like that low day, we kind of flipped it in our brains and said, actually, like we're all in on this thing. Like we can do this. We're proud of what we do. We're proud to help a friend. What's wrong with being a janitor? There's nothing wrong with it. And that's when it, like the bad day and the bad mental state flip for us is like we've been talking about this whole time. We've been sold this lie that if you're in lawn maintenance, if you're a window cleaner, if you're a painter, if you're whatever, you're a second-tier citizen.
Yep.
And it was that day that we believed, like, actually, this is amazing, this is useful, and we get to help people all over the city.
I was listening to a story the other day about Japan, and there are some cities in rural Japan that are shutting down because they don't have communal services, even just like a butcher shop.
Right.
They're missing like one butcher shop, and because of that, they can't get the core services they need, and so people are leaving cities entirely, which means the real estate that they have spent up their lives, livelihood to afford is now worth nothing because there's no community around them. In this world where we're just starting to realize that a little bit of ownership, that a job that doesn't turn you into a robot, that having a community and a team and doing work that matters is actually the path to happiness.
So important.
Yes, is rare. But I think your generation, do you think your generation gets it more than mine? You're like one generation below me. Are you seeing other people your age start to understand this?
We're seeing a lot of our friends start service companies.
Yeah.
Because they realize, one, I can make just as good, if not better money than if I was working in an office. And two, I have so much more freedom over my life. And I feel like people nowadays, they're so tied to purpose, like purpose being tied to their work. If you like have a purpose-driven lifestyle, you're going to be way happier. we don't clean windows just to clean windows because we're so like passionate about cleaning windows, but we are passionate about helping our city, maintaining our city, and making customers really happy and excited. That's what drives us every day. It's not just cleaning for the sake of cleaning, but it's cleaning for the sake of the customer, cleaning for the sake of the betterment of our city and the prosperity of our city.
Do you remember what your worst day was when you were employed before you did Pinks?
Oh, man. I try to say no bad days, but that's just not true. I think it was when I was working in the financial firm and I was like an analyst and kind of just putting spreadsheets together. But I remember like most Sundays, I would get the Sunday scaries.
Yeah.
I bet a lot of people listening feel that. And you're just like, gosh, I feel like there's more for me. So like there's not one specific day, but there was that feeling that I had every Sunday, every Monday, like I was a weekend warrior. I was just waiting for the weekend because then I was off. And I knew like deep in my heart that what I was doing was not it. Operating at what I felt was like 50% capacity of my brain and not feeling a lot of purpose, and then just being locked in the office every day. Like it was hard days. I would call my mom and she'd be like, hey, how's work? How's work, Brandon? And I would just kind of lie to her. I'd say, oh, Mom, it's great. It's fine. But mommies, they got those spidey senses. She knew that I was struggling.
Yeah.
And she knew when to press. She knew when not to press. But she knew I was in a tough place because I just wasn't fulfilled with work for the purpose, like from a purpose perspective, but also from I am not firing on all cylinders in my brain. I'm only using half of what I feel like I have up there.
Yeah.
And those days were not fun.
You guys, as far as I understand it, you had a chance to sell the business entirely.
Yeah.
Like you could have pretty much kind of sold, moved on.
Right.
And you had some different options on the table. But instead of selling overall, you said, actually, we just want to bring more people into the fold.
Right.
We want, we're good at cleaning windows. That's what we like to do. We're good at branding and we like leadership.
Yeah.
And, maybe we don't know how to build a national business. And so you partnered with the company that I invested in, right? Regal Resolve. A lot of people, if they would have gotten a chance to maybe have some sort of bigger exit, they might have taken it. And people listening to you might be thinking, well, maybe he's just going to clean windows for a minute and then he's going to leave and he's going to go become a venture capitalist.
Right.
But you actually had a little bit of a window where something like that could have happened.
Sure.
Why continue to own the franchise locally too?
Yeah.
Actually go out into the field like I've seen you guys, get dirty like you do. Why keep doing that as opposed to cash out in some way, shape, or form?
One, we love our team.
Yeah.
Like here locally, like Pink's Austin is our baby. And we love our team. They do such a good job. And it's a fun mentorship opportunity. Business, we are in the people business and we love people, whether it's our customers or our employees. So we want to stay tied to that. That's like from a purpose perspective. It also prints cash, which also doesn't suck. We want to keep owning Pink's Austin because it just spits us cash every single month. And that's a great part of the income. The reason we wanted to partner with Resi Brands is because we feel like we are flipping the script on blue collar, trying to make it cool, trying to add purpose to it, trying to just brand it out. Like we said, like flip the script on blue collar. Resi Brands is doing that in franchising. I feel like 5 years ago, franchising, it was kind of for like the weirdo. Oh, you want this franchise?
Or like
franchise?
A McDonald's crumble cookie or something terrible for society, right? Like, yeah.
What Resi's doing with the support for the franchisee, the Connect Center, the marketing team, all that, it's so good for the franchisee.
Yeah, you guys are the ones that introduced me to them. And I remember texting you on this. I was like, what do we think about these guys? Yeah. Like, let's have the download. And you told us. But I think the other part is like owner-operators. When I first met you guys, I was like, oh, they're in it. They get it. And Steven's the same way. He's like, I did this for 11 years before I started franchise.
That's why we love Steven.
Yeah, he's in the game. And the other thing that's fascinating, Brandon, is like how many of the people in your group and his are faith-based?
A good amount. We're not like so like outward and like pushy about it.
Of course, yeah.
But if people ask about it, like we're not going to shy away. It's like, like we love Jesus.
Yeah.
And like God gives us purpose and we're all in. And those principles of being honest, doing the right thing, like being faithful with a little so that we can be faithful with a lot. Whatever resources we get, being a wise steward of them, like that just makes sense. That's good business practice. It happens to be in the Bible too. It works really well.
Were you dating? It's now your fiance, right?
Yeah, Kelsey.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
She's adorable. Were you dating her before you started Pinks?
No, we started dating
So you met her after you were a window cleaner.
after.
Was that hard? Was it like, did that hurt your social capital at all, basically?
Before I started Pinks, I feel like in the dating world, I was like less confident because I didn't have my career figured out. But it just turned out I was insecure. But when we started Pinks, we got over ourselves. I got over myself and just died in my pride. I feel like I gained confidence. And I was like, yeah, I'm a window cleaner. What's wrong with it? And it helped me in the dating world. I mean, now I'm engaged, so it worked, I guess.
It looks like you do well. I think a lot of times, for men, good, bad, or the other ways, you're judged often on job and earnings.
Right.
That's at least historically how it's been. So the status games would happen on the male side. But then, I just had another friend of mine in here, Andrew Wilkinson, who you met, and he's always like, God, your husband's such a manly man. And I'm back here, a nerdy analyst. I think there is something really neat about the merging of the two, that you can have head, but you can also have, some dirty fingers.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I love about Pinks, or just the service business in general.
Yeah.
Is if I want to go clean windows every day, I can do that.
Yeah.
But also if I want to work on strategy and figure out a growth strategy to get Pinks up into the Northeast or the Pacific Northwest, I can do that. Or coach franchisees, just jump on a call and talk to a guy in Palm Beach, Florida.
Yes.
This morning. Just coaching him up on how to quote a building and how to overcome some customer objection. I love talking about the not being fully used, because I feel like that's so much of our generation is people that are just working in an office and they're probably working from home 3 days a week and they are not being fully used. They're working for really 3 hours a day, but they have to stretch out their work to make it an 8-hour day to make it look like to their boss that they're working. They got to appear online on Slack, so they're constantly moving their mouse and all that.
Well, is that true? Is that something that you guys had where they were tracking what's your work?
Probably not officially they had that, but I think as an employee of a big corporation, and there's a tiered management system, it feels like that. Whether that's a reality or not, I don't know, but I always felt like, oh, I got to be online or else I'm going to get a slap on the wrist or
whatever. That's probably true. I think a lot of bosses probably go, what are you guys doing? And, get micromanaging about it. I know I've been there before too. And I think for a lot of jobs post the Industrial Revolution, where we became knowledge workers instead, we just flipped how we measure work. And so now, instead of measuring output, we didn't take the time to figure out how to measure output for knowledge workers. So we just said time.
Yeah.
We just said, no matter what, no matter the output, your time has to be dedicated for this allotment.
Right.
This generation and mine are probably the first two generations that have fully felt this idea of knowledge work.
Yeah.
And to be candid, I don't think it makes us happy. And I'm not sure that the tracking is working.
Yeah. I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
But you follow Naval?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So he was on a podcast. I forgot when it was. But something I love that he talked about in this knowledge base. Well, now all the knowledge that there is out there is on the internet.
Yeah. Or
you can just chat GPT, what's the best way to do this? Or so the knowledge is there. But in the coming years, what he says is the valued commodity amongst employees or workers or business owners, it's judgment. We all have access to the same information, but what are the decisions we make based on the information? So judgment and wisdom and discernment, that's what we want to be as Pinks. Is it's easy. It's easy to get the information. What are we going to do with it? And how is that going to influence our future, the business's future, our franchisees' future, our employees' future, all of that.
I love it. If people want to hear more from you, where do they go?
Pinks Windows. You can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn. We're still figuring out the Twitter thing. Maybe you can help with that.
Absolutely. I will help with that. Also, phone number on your forehead.
Yes, it is there. If you need a window cleaning quote, holler here.
Actually, we joke about this as, close as business cards, which I think is really underdone in the trades.
Right.
It's like handyman service. Well, that's not a great name because you're never going to remember it.
Right.
And I think the way that people have done this historically in the trades is they go cutesy or a goofy saying, if it's cold outside, we've got your dad joke, right? Insert dad joke. But you guys said, no, we're going to have a premium brand.
Absolutely.
And we're going to treat this just like we would Apple if we were an Apple computer, but we happen to clean windows.
That's right. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because there's a lot of new brands popping up. There's a lot of big cleaning companies. If you have the decision to make your brand on clip art or Microsoft Paint or whatever it is, or you have the opportunity to hire an agency or do it yourself or whatever, I want it to be good. Like, if we're going to build it, let's build it right. And no one else in the service business is doing it. That's why we branded it out. And honestly, like, all credit to Carter. Carter's like the creative.
Carter's a little bit of like a mad marketing genius, isn't he?
Yes.
Like,
just like
Instagram videos are incredible. I can't believe I'm saying this about a window cleaning video, but candidly, like Pink's, what is the Instagram handle?
Pink's Windows.
Pink's Windows. It's hysterical. Like, you guys have that one with the Brady Bunch. We can actually show it right here.
Yes.
And first of all, you're going to get a bunch of female clients because it's like a bunch of young, good-looking dudes. They're going to be wanting you to be sweating.
That took so long to film. It took like 5. It took way too long.
It's incredible. Like, you all pop up in them. And then the other thing I thought was brilliant that you guys did from a marketing standpoint was the free neighborhood cleans.
Oh, the comp clean of the week.
Comp clean.
Yes. Basically, the comp clean it's just a way to bless our community, but also have some fun and film it. And bring, like, whenever we do a comp clean, we don't like to go to a big pop-in restaurant. We want to go to the small mom and pop that everyone in the neighborhood knows or drives by every day, but that may not know, like, what it is they serve at the restaurant or whatever. So we like to make fun, engaging content. It's become a thing where, like, we've cleaned Mount Joy's tour bus.
Yeah.
At ACL.
It's amazing.
We've done some stuff at Stubbs Barbecue, the venue.
Yeah.
For another band. And so it's kind of become this thing, but we still love the mom and pop.
Well, yeah, the comp clean, just so you guys know, you guys do free cleans for neighborhood restaurants, and then you film them in a really cool little way.
And edit it. It's so silly.
It's great.
Yeah.
You were also in a movie.
Yes. Yes, we were. We were in Hitman. Glenn Powell wearing her shirt, which is like, what the heck? It happened 2 years ago. A costume designer that Carter knew reached out to him and said, hey, here's the concept of Hitman. We need a service company, for a few minutes of the movie. Can we use Pinks? And of course, our answer was, hell yeah, use Pinks. Like, of course. And so we got a picture of Glenn Powell like 2 years ago wearing her shirt. And so we've just been sitting on it. And then it was released this past week.
Good things will take time, huh?
Yeah.
Did you get to go on set or no?
No, we shipped him a shirt and that was our involvement.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's some more movies, man. I appreciate you.
Hey, appreciate you. And like, that's the whole goal of Pinks is we try to flip the script on blue collar. When you think of window cleaning, or when whoever in New York City or LA or Chicago, or whoever thinks of window cleaning, we want you to think of one company, and that's Pinks. That's us. Because we're doing something different. We're bringing purpose and trying to flip the script.
Let's talk TikTokers and content for the deal of the week this week. This I thought was super interesting. So there's this girl that I follow, and she actually just got written up about in the Wall Street Journal. She's an electrician in Cornwall, New York, and she just shows like the day-to-day of what she does. And like, first off, she must be raking in so much money, because not only is she an electrician, you've been talking about how much money you can make doing this, but she's also making, and the Wall Street Journal said this, like $200,000 in like brand deals and things like that. So dual income, has a 9-to-5. Like, she seems like she's killing it.
The hashtag blue collar do 500,000 posts in the first 4 months of this year and is up 64% since 2023. It seems like blue collar is cool, basically, on TikTok. And that people, what it probably stems from. I mean, in a world where so many of us only know things like spreadsheets, computering, like cannot fix the oven if our life depends on it. Somebody who's capable with their hands. Let's watch this video really quick from Lex, the electrician, and see what's up. All right. Well, first of all, what you're seeing here is like a young woman. She's cute. She's got like cute but wholesome outfits on. She's serious. She's doing these like big commercial electrician looking jobs, like hauling huge cables. Got a little dance in there because it's the TikTok. Mm-hmm. Looks like she could electrocute herself at any time. Doing it with nails on, too, because that's what your generation is into. Like nails that look like you can't do anything with, but she's doing it with. And she's serious. Like, this is a serious professional out there doing her thing. And what I think is amazing about this is basically we're shedding some light on work that without which you and I could not be doing this podcast right now.
Oh,
somebody built these lines, somebody ran a bunch of cables, and because of that, we can do this. How can you not only do trade work, but skip college? So she's making, let's say she's probably making 6 figures in her electrician job.
She actually didn't even skip college. She went to pre-med for 2 years, got her associate's degree, and was like, I'm not a people person. And then after her associate's degree stopped and became an electrician.
Fascinating.
And I wonder if I think she had family members that were electricians. And I think one good thing that's happening because TikTok and other social media platforms are kind of like amplifying blue collar work is it's showing people alternate job opportunities. Because my parents were great and they said if you want to go to vocational school, they were really, really into it. Where my mom lives, there's a pretty good program for people who want to become plumbers and electricians and things like that. But I feel like not that many people are given the opportunity or have parents or have anybody else that's telling them like, hey, these jobs are out there and they exist and they make good money.
You know, my husband always says like his favorite time was doing hood rat shit with his friends, which means when he was in the military, like kicking down doors and shooting guns and, you know, working out a lot. And I think for a lot of people, it doesn't make them happy being behind a screen. And so if we can now, you can't be what you can't see. If we can now see a bunch of people who are living lives where they make money with their hands, I think you're in my generation. I used to think, well, like, I guess you could be a physical trainer. That was like allowed if you wanted to do something with your body. You could be an athlete, you know, you could be in the military.
Yeah.
But at least my generation, we didn't think about the trades. My father's generation, definitely different. So I love this. Lex, the electrician, you look like a stud. And maybe you guys on social tag me the best trade and vocational people that you see on the internet. I want to continue to highlight people like you because I think you guys are doing the work. To close out the episode today, there's a quote from Marcus Aurelius that says, "You can't be a good man if you are incapable of violence." And what did that mean? Well, Jordan Peterson actually said something similar, which is a harmless man is not necessarily a good man. That a man who can commit violence but chooses not to is truly a good man. And I think about that a lot with these trade workers and with those people who have decided to take the hardened path. That in fact, maybe it's being able to commit violence. It's being able to do the hard, but choosing the other that leads to happiness and a better society for us. So this week, I hope I made you think a little bit with this episode. And if you're a parent out there, maybe ponder this a little bit. Does every kid have to go to university? Do we have to pay into institutions continuously that put us in roles that increasingly don't make us happy and don't necessarily make us more money? Is that a good idea? I would love to hear from you guys in the comments. It's something that I think about a lot because I am a Monday morning quarterback with kids because I don't have any of them. But I wonder if one day when I have them, what will my decision be? Will I be okay if my kid wants to go clean windows? If they want to go work in a coal mine? If they want to do the hard and dangerous thing? Or do I only feel pride in them if they have a title of CEO or a title of doctor behind them and do some big mental gymnastics in order to have a career? I don't know the answer to that, but I know that it's a question worth asking. Thank you for being here today. I think you are a big deal. You are a big deal to me, and that is why we do this podcast. So if you haven't already, please give us a little review. I think it's time for the word to get out that just because you're a tech worker doesn't mean you're better than a trade worker. So if you agree with me, now's the time to share the pod and give us a review.
That I have it, you know that I got it. No need to look all in a bag. Stunting like this because I work so hard. I'm the best. I only speak facts.
Finding love is hard. There is nothing easy about finding the person you're going to share a room with for the rest of your life.
The most important deal you'll ever do is the partner you choose. Marriage done well is a superpower. That's why today I bring you Matthew Hussey, arguably the world's foremost dating coach.
There's an arrogance among a lot of entrepreneurs that they think if you're not on board and you don't support me, and it's like, no, being with an entrepreneur is a nightmare.
Do you have frameworks or tactics you use?
But I have these things I call emotional buttons. When we feel an emotion, and it's a good emotion, and we want to feel it again, it's really, really important to just...
If you're young and you're having a hard time finding somebody, does it help if you're like, maybe I should try dating across the aisle?
Ask yourself, what was missing last time around? That because that thing was missing, I was miserable. You have to have a strong enough reason to believe that the game is worth it.
For the last 20 years, he's advised everyone from regular folks to royalty, literally. And his clients include people like Eva Longoria and Tyra Banks. He's written bestsellers, gone viral on every platform you can name, and also built one of the most loyal female audiences on the internet, helping people find maybe the most important thing in the world, love, and keeping it. So without further ado, let's bring on Matthew Hussey to talk about how do we find love, how do we keep it, how do we date, and how do we not just get married
but stay married happily. So for my single friends, I keep hearing that it's harder than ever out there, that they can't find someone, even if they were married before, they're divorced, they're trying to figure it out. You've been doing this for 18 years, talking to people about dating and psychology and marriage and partnership. Is it harder now today than any other time? And what's different now?
I think in some ways it is harder now. I think there's more and more news stories now about what's happening for men and women. Yeah. Not that I want to plunge headfirst into those political debates, but it's become, I think, hard to ignore that there is something going on that is making life difficult at all different age groups. Yeah. You have people who are out there who are really looking for commitment. You have women looking for commitment, and we're living in a world where, I don't know the stats off by heart, but women are making more money, men are struggling, a lot of men, not all men, but a lot of men. Women are more educated, a lot less men by comparison are graduating. So there seems to be something going on there in terms of, women whose standards have gone up, men who are struggling to keep pace. Yep. How does that then show up in dating in terms of, are women happy with who they're meeting? Are men happy with who they're meeting, or the ways that they're feeling necessary, or in any way, are they struggling with where they are? Are they struggling with their confidence? I think there's just an awful lot going on in terms of men feeling sidelined and men not feeling like they match up to some ideal. That's going on the women's side too. Women feel like they're not matching up to an ideal. I think social media has created an ideal that's so hard for any of us to live up to. It's created a completely fake image of what success is, of what a good-looking person is. Like, you can't even trust what Santorini looks like anymore.
That's so true.
You know what I mean? How could you not be disappointed these days going to Santorini? It's been perfected on Instagram. So, what has happened to holiday destinations has happened to our faces, has happened to people, has happened to lifestyles. So there's a kind of impossible standard that I think a lot of people are looking for. And like I said, we can get into it, but I think it affects people differently depending on the age they are. Interesting. Whether they're in their 20s, and you're now finding, I saw a news piece the other day that Gen Z women are having an easier time, some of them dating millennial men, because some of their political beliefs are more aligned than they are with men their own age, because we're living in this really strange time where, it used to be the case that young people were the most liberal, and now, especially among men, they trend more conservative. So you've now got a lot of very liberal women finding a lot of men their age have very different views than them on life, and they're finding that older men have more things in common in terms of their views than men their own age. Again, these are generalizations, but there's something really fascinating about that. Then you've got people coming out of marriages in their 50s saying, especially if they're a woman, I'm dating guys who are expecting, very old ways of being, and I have to show up, very grateful and very submissive to a relationship and having no needs. Meanwhile, they're not offering an awful lot. Many of them don't want to commit again. They don't want to get married again. They don't want to be back in a situation where they're being told what to do or where they're having to answer to anybody. So there's just so many mismatches across the board right now. And there is a bit of a sense of it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, it does feel like that. It's interesting because you coach, through your business, which we'll talk about, Matthew AI, and then also all the events and everything that you do. You coach and talk to thousands and thousands of people about dating, and millions of people across social media. Do you find, are people happier when they date somebody or marry somebody that has the same political view as them, or no?
I think it removes a variable. I think it takes something off the table that becomes a deep source of antagonism in a relationship. I mean, it's not I deal with people who are you've got one person in the relationship who has one stance on abortion and the other side has a completely different stance. That's really tricky because we're not talking two people in a relationship who are like, one of them thinks we should pay a bit more in tax and the other one doesn't,
Right.
which kind of, those situations are a little easier because it's just like, you believe in higher taxes and I don't. When it comes to those more deep-seated issues, it's very hard for people. And also, we live in a world I'd be the last person to make the point that we're so divided. And so it's much more now, I think, people have said, if you hear one person's belief now, you kind of tend to know everything they believe.
Yep.
Because of whatever echo chamber they're in. And so I think you have two people meeting where it's not just like there are nuances in, they have different, like they agree for the most part over here, but then there's just some areas where they just don't quite align. Usually it's like, no, you believe all of these different things and I believe all of these different things. And that's a hard relationship to have unless you've got two extremely compassionate, curious, and empathetic people who are trying to understand each other, but that doesn't exactly portray the landscape right now, does it?
No, it almost feels like people want to lead first with ideology. It's like, I am my ideology, as opposed to I want to be with another human.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I don't think I really cared or anybody knew so much what political aisle somebody else was on. It wasn't a topic of conversation we talked about consistently. And I wouldn't have said, I would never date Matthew because he's X and I'm Y. I'd be like, he seems super interesting. Oh, he has that political view? Whatever. Kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you're young and you're having a hard time finding somebody, do you think, does it help if you're like, man, maybe I should try dating across the aisle? Or are you like, no, it's actually a bad idea because now you just have all this friction later because we're so closely tied to our ideologies?
I think that we should try and be on the lookout for the values that seem to transcend what people think.
Yeah.
I think it was Christopher Hitchens once said, it's more important how someone thinks than what they think.
I love Hitchens.
Yeah.
Letters to a Young Contrarian.
I'm sad.
Such a classic.
It's a great, great, great book. And I'm sad that we don't get to hear his opinions on everything today.
Yeah, me too. Could you
It always feels like one of the
imagine?
great losses of our lives now that we don't get to hear him weigh in on things.
Yeah.
He's a voice I miss tremendously.
He'd be a good person for young people to listen to too, because he was like a socialist and a communist and then a capitalist and then an atheist.
Who would
and then
he have been
believed
in
God?
20 years if he'd lived another 20
He
years?
would have gone all backwards again. Probably
yeah, I don't
right.
know. It'd be fascinating to hear. And so, but I always admired that idea of, how you think, not what you think. And, me and my wife, Audrey, did not start with all the same beliefs about everything.
You didn't lay your voting card on the table. You met her.
No.
Say, can you walk me through each decision, please?
But it was, what was clear early on was that we did have some different stances on things. And the more we were in each other's worlds, I think we've really affected each other. Both of us have changed. And that to me there's something very, very beautiful about that. So if I had written her off because she believes different things than me and she'd written me off for the same reason, we might have been missing something more important, which is that actually at our core, Audrey and I are both intensely curious people. And I'm more interested in truth than I am in being right. So that, which by the way, is always, this is a very besides the point to make, but I always think it's an important point for people to hear, is that saves you actually from fear of embarrassment. And, in an interview like this, right, or a conversation like this, it would be very scary to go in thinking that the goal is to be right.
Yeah.
Because then if I misstep and say something that I turn out to be wrong about, it's a really hard thing for my ego to try and reverse out of that. But if I instead say, I just care about finding what's true, then I can change my position on anything at any time. And there's something very powerful about that. And I think that if you can bring that to a relationship, then you have a relationship between two people where they're both constantly evolving. So there's a certain magic to that you are prepared to change your mind about things, and I'm prepared to change my mind about things. And because we know that about each other, we're not keeping a scorecard of who's right and who's wrong. Instead, and there's something very disarming when you see someone else that you're with in a relationship say, "You've made me think differently about that." Because it lowers your guard. When you hear someone say that, you then think, why am I being so stiff about my opinions? If they're willing to do that, maybe there's some areas that I need to concede on or I need to think about. And Audrey was always so good at that. She would one of the loveliest compliments she would give me, and in turn I've given her, is, because of you, I've changed my mind on that. Or because of you, I actually think a little differently about that. And I really credit you with helping me understand more about that, or seeing that a different way. It's such a gorgeous compliment to receive from someone. And I know that getting that compliment from her has made me, it's actually disarmed me in a lot of ways. And seeing that she has the humility to shift ideas has bred more of that humility in me in a relationship where I can think of times in the past where I've been very defensive and digging my heels in on a position and very competitive about who's winning the argument. And, we just don't have that in our relationship, which is lovely. And that's why I say that's deeper than what we thought was like this layer. How we thought was a much deeper layer. And because of how we thought, that we had an intense curiosity and a humility and a desire to know what's truthful, and that superseded what we thought.
It's so true. Yeah, it kind of goes back to that like Carol Dweck fixed versus growth mindset that she talks about. And I always thought, I've done a marriage wrong once before. And so I was married before, and I think the biggest problem was one of us, I think, was more growth mindset. So like, hey, I could be wrong now, but that doesn't mean I am wrong as a human. I'm just wrong in this moment. And like, we're going to keep figuring that out. And if you're fixed, you're kind of like, I am either smart or I am not, or I am wrong or I am right. And that is very actually fragile, as opposed to like, Taleb's anti-fragile, which would be like, yeah, I can bend. I'm the grass or the palm tree. I'm not the oak that can break.
It's very freeing.
Yeah, it's
very freeing.
Now today, obviously, I want to obsess on the idea of how do we help more humans find love? For me in particular, if I would have said that comment 3 years ago, I probably would have, like, that's like so touchy-feely for me. I'm a finance person. Like, I'm like, what is wrong with her? Like, did she do some ayahuasca before this? But I think now that I've been, married for many years, and I've watched my parents have an incredible marriage. One, I think it's such a superpower. Like, a marriage well done is so beautiful, and it's my happiest thing in my life. Like, he's incredible. And don't get me wrong, we fight all the time too and have all the issues. So I want to help people as much as we can with your expertise find love. And then I also want us, maybe even more important, it's not just about getting married, it's about staying married, right? Happily. And so stay married. And so I kind of, one of the questions I had was, one, how do you stay married? What are the traits of two people who stay married together happily?
I like talking about this because I feel I'm discovering this as I'm talking, because I've talked so much about dating. I've talked so much about getting into relationships. It's fun for me to think about this side of it because I've been asked about it less. Look, I think that you have to actually be I think a great marriage actually requires an awful lot of discipline. It's not a word that comes up a lot in relation to relationships, but I actually think discipline is really, really important, because if you have a good body, there's because there's a discipline there about the way that you show up in that area of your life. And it's not easy. There are days you don't feel like going to the gym. I don't feel like going to the gym. I would say 4 out of 5 days
Same.
that I go. I really don't. It's one of those things that I feel I'm happy I did it after I did it. Beforehand, not so much. And every area of our life is like that. Our business is like that.
Dating partnerships aren't the only ones that are really important. So are partnerships in business. If you guys right now are looking to build your business and you're confused on your next partner, on the next move in your business, I want you to know we got your back. We actually just started something only for owners of businesses who are looking to grow. It is, I think, for you. If you are a 6, 7, or 8-figure entrepreneur that feels like right now today, you don't exactly have the recipe for your growth accelerator. If that is you, we got your back. Go ahead and click the link. You can talk to our team and figure out if you should also build alongside some other humans who could be your future partners.
You know that's so well. It has to be this thing that you go to work every day and you show up for it, and it's not always easy. You know, David Whyte describes, the British poet David Whyte describes our vocation as one of the 3 marriages that we are in. And like any marriage, you have days where you don't like it and you have to do things you don't want to do and you make sacrifices. And I think it's one of the things that makes people feel quite resentful of following their dreams is how disappointing following their dreams can be.
That hits too close.
But you know, like you do this thing, you see a person, I don't know, on stage and you go, I want to do that. But you're talking about 1/10 of the job when you see that person on stage. If someone comes and sees me at my retreat and says, I want to do that, they're seeing me in one weekend of my entire year. Most of my year is me sat in our house behind a laptop on Zoom calls or sitting in a quiet room making content. That people don't look at that and go, I want that life.
No.
They see you on stage. I want that. And that's such a small part of it. So then someone does it and they go, oh my God, I think I'm doing it wrong because I don't feel naturally happy all the time, or I don't feel naturally excited all of the time. So there are days where you don't want to do it. And I think there's true of relationships as well. It's challenging some days. You don't have the energy for it. You don't feel like listening to someone today when they're talking about something they're going through. And you're like, oh my God, I've 100 other things to do today. I really didn't need on top of that for you to be having an anxious moment about something. And you feel like you don't know. But how often is it like that at work? You have 100 things to do at work, and then someone comes to you and says, I need you to deal with this. And it is a swell of resentment that like, how dare you bring me one more thing in a day where I'm already so overloaded? But it's like, that's what you signed up for. That's the game.
That's the game.
And so when you realize that's the game, you have 2 choices. Either decide the game is worth it, or you bail, or you stop trying, which is the slow death from that point on. But you have to have a strong enough reason to believe that the game is worth it. And I have been, long before I was ever good at committing in my love life, I always thought I had a big problem with commitment. Interesting. And what I didn't quite realize was that I had already been married I'd been in a marriage for a good 10 years of my life that I had been faithful to in this organization I'd created and the work that I do. So it turns out I was quite good at committing when I had a big enough reason. Mm-hmm. And I think that in relationships, that one of the greatest things we can have is really start with a big enough reason to want to listen to that person have a problem today, to want to wake up and see if you can anticipate a little bit what might make their day better, what might make the relationship a bit stronger. That to me is everything. And I think I am more connected today to why this relationship is important than I've ever been in my entire life.
What is the reason why it's important to you?
It makes my whole life better. Everything good in my life is made better by my relationship with my wife. And everything bad in my life is made easier by my relationship with my wife. She is the amplifier for all good things and a balm for all bad things. And so she's like this core asset in my life, this core thing that has this wonderful effect on everything else. And so for me, it's just so, if I'm resentful or if I'm feeling annoyed or I've lost sight of the bigger picture, which is like, dummy, your life is so, like, you have forgotten how much better your life is because this person is in it.
What do you do in those moments? Like when you have a moment, you're in your relationship, you get resentful and you start pushing one way or the other. How do you realign and remember why you were there in the first place? Do you have frameworks or tactics you use?
I do. I have this is where we could really end up geeking out, but I have these things I call emotional buttons. And they are, this is a big module on my retreat, but it only became a module on my retreat because I had been using it in my life for so long that I felt like I can't not talk about it. But when we feel an emotion and it's a good emotion and we want to feel it again, it's really, really important to just like hit pause and go, what's happening right now? Is there a kind of set of ingredients right now that has led to me feeling this way? And it can be, it can be something really simple. I mean, there's a in that movie, The Fighter with Mark Wahlberg, and I forget the other guy's name, but it's about two brothers, really. It's about this relationship between two brothers. And there's this moment where Mark Wahlberg is about to get in the ring for this big fight. And his older brother is stood there with him. And he puts his forehead against Mark Wahlberg's head. And he's just talking to him. But I get goosebumps as I'm saying it because he's talking to him, but he's being like, he's making him feel safe in a moment where there's so much going on and there's so much noise and there's so many nerves, and his older brother is really there for him in that moment. And it became this instant kind of emotional button for me for why I wanted to be a good brother. It's almost like bypassed logic, right? It's just, I saw a thing and it instantly, I was like, I want to be a better brother. I've got two younger brothers. I'm one of three. Like that, that is an image of the way I want to be a brother to my younger brothers. And the thing I love about emotional buttons is that they bypass, I don't have to write an essay to myself on my why for wanting to be a good brother. An emotional button just bypasses that. All I need to do is call back that image, that moment. And sometimes it's the music from that moment, if you want to use music. Sometimes it's the picture of that moment. Sometimes it's the literal YouTube clip of that moment. But I can literally go back there. Now, a lot of us do this unconsciously anyway, right? We have songs we listen to put us in a certain state, and we have videos we like to watch that pump us up. And so, but what I'm suggesting is much more granular than that. It would be too simplistic to describe it as motivation. I have emotional buttons for so many different, very nuanced things in my life. I have emotional buttons for being a great brother. I have emotional buttons for socializing, because guess what? I'm an introvert who has socializing for me takes a lot of energy, but I have emotional buttons that I've written down that make me want to socialize when I reconnect with them. So to your point, to circle back, I have lots of emotional buttons for wanting to be an amazing partner and for how wonderful my relationship is and how lucky I am and the kind of husband I want to be to my wife. I have emotional buttons, and they're not things I've conjured out of thin air. That's the beautiful thing about emotional buttons. You're actually working with things, tapping into nerves you've already touched before.
It's brilliant.
Just by paying attention and recording the formula. Winston Churchill said, men occasionally stumble over the truth, but most pick themselves up and carry on as if nothing happened. And I would say anytime we stumble over a moment of peace, a moment of love for our spouse, like an uncommon moment of love for your spouse, where you just, sometimes Audrey has a laugh. I've never told her this actually, but there is a certain kind of like guttural laugh. She has almost like a dirty laugh that she has when you really make her laugh. I'm not funny enough to make her laugh like that every week, but like when I do, it's the greatest thing on earth. Like I live for that laugh.
Wow.
And something about that laugh, hard to even put into words, but there's something about that laugh that makes me love her so much. So me just remembering that under my emotional buttons for my relationship with Audrey would be that deep, like guttural, dirty laugh she does when she's really finds something funny. I think of that. I feel love for Audrey now as I'm saying it.
Yeah. I feel love for Audrey as you're saying it. I'm like, this is contagious. I'm like, I want to hear that laugh.
But that's, well, by the way, I mean, then we get into a whole other territory there, because that's, that's why our favorite teachers at school were our favorite teachers, is because they were able to actually pass emotional buttons on to us. They loved something so much that there was a way of talking about it, a way of describing it, that they may have even been able to infect us with their emotional button. So if you were to open up my laptop, there's a file called Emotional Buttons, and it's broken down by all of the different things that I want to feel, because like Winston Churchill said, I never stumble over an emotion. Wow. Or a moment without just stopping and going, why do I feel so good right now? What is this? What's happening? What's the little formula that's going on here that I need to pay attention to, so that I don't have to wait until I stumble back over this by accident?
That's so good. It's almost like muscle memory when you're working out, how, you're supposed to pay attention. Like right now, I really am trying to flex my left glute because I want to activate it. And when I feel that, like you can feel it. But if you haven't actually paid attention to it before, it's hard to separate one muscle from another one. You could just be this cacophony of muscle movements, think you're working out, and actually not target at all the right areas.
That's exactly right. Because the button you would use to feel energized and like, let's go, is a different thing than maybe just contentment.
Right.
Or peace.
And you might not know why. And so then you become this series of accidents, like you talk about, where you don't know why your emotions are so all over the place. You don't know why you're feeling this way today or not, as opposed to like, I do recognize that I feel anxious in this moment, which happens just about every time I have 2.5 cups of coffee. and I don't get a good night's sleep because I sleep better with my spouse. That is such a powerful unlock. I'm going to start doing that.
I literally, there's almost no tool that I use more in my life than I have a little day planner that I put my to-dos in and whatnot. And if you could open it up now, you would see that every day, the first thing, and I'm not someone who's like 1,000 morning routines and all of that, but like there is this one thing that I tried to do. I don't always get it done, but I tried to spend just 5 minutes in the morning, open up my emotional buttons file and just pick a selection to engage with, because it's like having a kind of treasure trove of all of these things that tap into beautiful states that bypass logic and just make me feel like I feel very, very abundant when I look at them.
And you know what else I like about it? It's really simple. Like if I think about my husband, he notices them more. He has much better self-awareness and body awareness than I do. And so when he gives me a hug and he does this like deep breath kind of hug thing that if anybody else did it to me, it would totally freak me out. But when he does it, it's like, I just feel down regulation. I immediately am like, that just got rid of all this stress I didn't realize I had. And it was just this big hug that I got from him. And if you asked me that question, what do I think would lead to a happy marriage, or what's my deep why? I would have gone cerebral. I would have said, because this is your partner through life and they're there for difficult times, and remember that. But it's way more powerful actually to feel it.
And you're right, by the way. You're absolutely right. That's a perfect answer. What I like about what you're describing is, is the why, right? Like if you had a table, it would be like on this side is your actions and on this side is your why for taking that action. Why am I going to take an action in my relationship today? Actions take effort, actions take energy. Why, how can I get myself to do this thing? And of course, as much has been written on starting with why.
Yeah.
And, you know, a friend of mine, Simon Sinek, has like led that charge. But what I'm intensely interested in is the bridge between action and why.
Yeah.
How can we get to the why quicker? What's like the main line where you can just push a button and that button is an instant trigger for your why without you having to go through the process of every time you need to connect with your why, sitting there and going, I'm going to journal about what my why is in this area. What's like the instant like connector switch? And for me, that the middle column between those two is emotional buttons.
That's so good. Now, let's say that somebody's listening and they're like, all right, I'm not with somebody yet. Or a lot of people, I think, are with somebody and they're super unhappy. Like I know a lot of married people these days who say, I get it a lot from men, actually. Man, I wish my wife worked as much, you know, as you did. I wish she understood the business. You know, she's not as supportive with working all the time. So I guess my question is it better to have no spouse than an unsupportive spouse?
Yes. But it depends what we mean by unsupportive. Like to what extent, how do we define unsupportive? Because there's so much to say on this. Firstly, if we start from a place of there are many different ways to live a good life, and charging forward with a business that energizes and excites you is one potential route to a good life. So is being a teacher. So is having a hobby that you love, that you lose yourself in. So is being someone who's just very into creating peace in their life and doesn't need to be racing around all the time in order to be happy.
Sounds nice.
You know, I'm one of the things I'm not to be too self-referential. I want to be careful, but I am the kind of type A, like I've always been that hyper ambitious, charge after it. One of the things I've been most grateful for is having someone who also brought a different energy to the table. And I think that sometimes we live so much in our little like narrow lane of how we live our lives that we don't realize actually there might be some real merit to the way that someone else prioritizes differently than we do. And that might be just the kind of medicine that we need to help balance us out a little bit. So sometimes what people define as unsupportive, I think, is someone with values that says, for me, a good life isn't working day and night. That's not what a good life is to me. So then, and I would say there's nothing wrong with that. It might even be healthier. But the question is then, okay, so then how do these two worlds mesh? Mm-hmm. Is this person sort of this active impediment to certain goals that you have that are really important to you and takes no time to understand or see where you're coming from or what you're trying to do and why it's so important to you? And are you someone who can't stand the fact that they live life differently than you, even when they're not necessarily asking you to be anything else? You know, if they want to build out their days differently, that's their prerogative. I think that there's an arrogance among a lot of entrepreneurs and people who start things up that they think if you don't if you're not on board, you don't get it and you don't support me. And it's like, no, you being with an entrepreneur is a nightmare.
Yeah,
it's a nightmare. True. It's like you many of them are workaholics. They never stop. They're always talking shop. They can't get their brain off the business. They're in anxious states a lot of the time because it's like a lot of the time it's make or break, and you feel this immense pressure and stress. And also, let's be real. There is something wildly selfish about being an entrepreneur. Like that.
And irrational.
It's like people, I'm doing this for, no, you're doing this for you. Most people are doing it because they want, it's your dream.
Yep.
It's a bit like someone, we think when it's building a business, that somehow people get a bit more righteous about it. But if someone moved to, if someone's partner said, I'm going to go and act in Los Angeles, but I'm doing this for us, you'd be like, no, I support you and I love you. And if this is going to make you happy, then let's figure it out. But don't tell me that you're moving to Hollywood and making less money and doing all of these auditions for us. This is your dream. And I think we have to be very careful when we have a thing that we want to do, when it's important to us or our sense of significance or our sense of purpose or our ego, that we do this. And then we want to be mad at someone else because they don't get it and they're not like on board with us. A team is one where I recognize your goals and you recognize mine, and we both really, really care about each other's goals. And we really look at all those goals and we say, look, I get this is really, really important to you. How do we make this work? Like what can we do? And you do the same for me. It's not one-sided. We do it for each other. That's a healthy relationship. But I get a little like frustrated with all of the people out there who have decided that they're going to go on this like crazy mission. And then they're mad at their partners for having questions.
Yeah, it's actually, when you say it that way, it's so true. Do you think, it's interesting. You talk to a lot of women about dating and how to not settle in their relationship and in the love that they found or find. What is your best advice for women on making sure they don't settle?
To cut to the core of it, be very, very honest with yourself about what makes you happy. Mm-hmm. Because we tend to settle for things when we're not actually being honest about what's going to make us happy. So for example, you start seeing someone who is, charismatic and sexy and, makes you feel alive, and you have a great time with them. You feel this amazing connection. But let's say there are some major catches. They don't want a relationship. They continue to see other people. They are extremely inconsistent with their communication. They are completely out of sight, out of mind when you're not with them. So you never feel safe. You constantly feel anxious. You don't feel like you can ever fully hold on to them. It never really feels like you're together. And so you're living for the next time you're with them, which is amazing when it happens, but it's miserable when you're not with them. And even when you're with them, if you're honest, it's kind of miserable on some level, because even though you're happy, you just can't keep looking at your watch going, when is this going to end? I know it's going to end in a few hours, and then I might not hear from them for another week or two. Like that, in that situation, which is extremely common, we are incredibly unhappy, and we are lying to ourselves that we're happy. And we settle for that because we say, I can't give them up. They make me happy. They don't make you happy. They make you really, really unhappy. You feel anxious. You feel unloved. You feel forgotten about. You feel unimportant. You don't even feel chosen because they're not even telling you that they're going to be with you to the exclusion of other people. You don't feel safe. You are unhappy. You're telling yourself you're happy. It's not true. And to me, a great piece of advice is the next time you go out to date, ask yourself, okay, before I even meet someone I'm attracted to, what was missing last time around that because that thing was missing, no matter how wonderful I thought that person was, because that thing was missing, I was miserable. It was a version of hell. And anyone, look, I've been in a relationship before where I did not feel safe. I felt anxious all the time. I was constantly feeling insecure. And I really didn't want to lose the relationship. And I was so unhappy. Even one of my dear friends, my publisher, Karen Rinaldi at HarperCollins, she said, I came to see you one day during that relationship. And, you know, I left and I spoke to my sister. I know her sister as well. She said, I spoke to my sister and my sister said, how's Matthew? And she said, he is not happy. Like I can see it in his face. He is not happy. Now, at the time, I would have told you, I'm great. I was miserable. I just didn't want to admit it to myself because then I'd have to do something I was scared of.
Yeah.
But, which is, by the way, either leaving or speaking up for yourself. But we're afraid to speak up for ourselves because we think that if we speak up for ourselves, then it's going to spell the end of the relationship.
Right.
That person's, we're only going to keep that relationship if we continue to keep our needs very, very small.
Yeah. Well,
and not ask for a lot.
And heartbreak is just, once you felt it, it's, you know, you have PTSD. You don't want to feel it again. And it can feel so heavy and overwhelming. And so I get why we delay. You know, it's like anything. When something fails or breaks, whether it's in business or in love, it sticks with you. And so, you know, you actually help a lot of women with the worst case scenario, theoretically, which would be heartbreak. What do you do to help somebody through a broken heart, or what do you tell them so that they get over the PTSD?
And by the way, like I should say this because I know you have tons of men in your audience. Actually, these days we're a very mixed audience. Like we have everybody. I used to address more videos to women. These days, I kind of removed the pronouns from it because I'm like, everyone's here.
Plus, we can do that in 2025.
Plus, we can do that.
Last year you couldn't do it, but this year you can.
No, I stopped. I'm like, this is so universal. This is so for everybody. I'm not like there. We have a huge gay audience. We have a huge male audience. We have women. We have everybody. So
We're
I'm
just
like,
humans.
Yeah, heartbreak is something we all go through, and it's the heartbreak. There's a difference between acute heartbreak and chronic heartbreak, and chronic acute heartbreak is what we all go through when we experience a big loss in our lives. And the heartbreak where someone leaves us and we didn't want them to leave us, especially, I mean, although we can still get heartbroken when we're the one leaving and doing something that we feel is right for us, but we're going to miss someone. It's a form of grief. And, you know, as my friend David Kessler says, who's the #1 grief expert in the world, grief is nothing but a change we didn't want. And that in heartbreak, we experience the grief of this loss of somebody, and we have to work through that grief. That's acute heartbreak. Chronic, and by the way, everyone moves through acute heartbreak. Chronic heartbreak is what takes over when we can't seem to get out of it, when it sticks with us. And it sticks with us because it becomes a story. There's the facts. I lost someone. That's hard. I'm having to adjust. I miss them. I even miss the chemicals that flood my body when I have someone in my life. I miss the routines. I feel lonely when I'm by myself. I'm sad about the history that I've lost. I'm disappointed that the future I thought was going to happen is not the future that I'm being presented with, that it's going to be a different future than the one I had planned. That's all acute heartbreak. But when we create a story that makes that heartbreak never end, that's when it becomes chronic. So for example, a story would be, they were the love of my life, or let me correct that, they are the love of my life. And they left. So now within that one statement, you have a recipe for chronic heartbreak. Because now, no matter whether it's year 1, year 3, or year 5, the love of my life is out there somewhere, dating other people, getting married to somebody else, living their life, and they're not with me.
Does that happen a lot? Do a lot of people?
For sure, yeah. Because we go on believing they're the love of my life, and the truth is they're not the love of. They were a love in your life, but that you have to define what does it really mean for someone to be the person that's right for you. It has to surely involve them saying yes to you.
So a lot of this is like definitions.
It's really important to say, if someone doesn't choose me, they
They're not.
cannot be my person. Right. There's no such thing as my person is out there, they're just not choosing me. That does not make sense. By definition, the right person for us is the person who sees what's valuable about us. It's the person who chooses us. The right person can never be the person who doesn't choose you. But as long as you tell yourself, my right person broke up with me, the love of my life broke up with me, and you hold on to that story, then you'll stay heartbroken.
I've never thought about it that way. It's like if you don't know what you want, then you're going to keep repeating your patterns and you're going to think that you're happy and in love, but that's really just because you have a definition problem. And if you keep feeling like your heart is broken and you'll never get over this person, that's also a definition problem.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating. So I think a lot of times lately what I hear is people saying, and I'll just go back to women because I am a woman, but replace this with a man, and I'm sure there's something different, which is like, men don't like women who are X. So like, I want to play that game with a few of these. For instance, do men not like women who are intelligent?
Some men are threatened by women's intelligence, that's for sure. Other men won't date a woman who's not intelligent. But I think to give credit to that statement, there's an awful lot of men who are already coming to the table with a chip on their shoulder, and they are trying to figure out where their significance comes from in life. And so when they come along and you're intelligent, it's one more way that I'm not good enough. It's one more way that you're highlighting a deficit for me. And for those men, the intelligence is not high on their list because connection isn't high on their list. What's high on their list is feeling significant. Like, I know that for me and most of the men I know, being able to have great conversations with someone is an absolute must for a long-term relationship. They want someone they can shoot the shit with, they can see a movie with and leave that movie and be like, what did you think? And that person goes, oh my God, when that thing happened and I really thought it was interesting in this way and so on. Not, that was good. Like, they're like, wait, what? No, let's talk about it. Most of the people I know want that kind of a connection and are cerebral people, so they would struggle not to have that kind of connection. So for them, if they're going into, I'm not saying they don't have their insecurities, but if they're going into a relationship going, I want a genuine connection with someone and intelligence is important to me, intelligence is actually a must for them. But if you're going into dating women and your goal is not a connection, your goal is validation, your goal is significance, then the moment someone's intelligent, you're like, this is, I'm not going to get my significance here. And then add to that, if someone feels like they don't make enough money, or they're not tall enough, or they're not whatever it is they've told themselves they must be in order to be defined as a significant and attractive male, then any of those markers can immediately throw someone off balance. And so I think that's what happens is women's intelligence throws a lot of men off balance when they're already coming from a place of insecurity.
You do such a good job, and this is why I like your content so much, of being able to see both sides of the gender and being able to see different types of humans without a lot of judgment, but saying like, well, if their highest value is X and your input is Y, you're going to have Z equation. And like, we're not making judgments on it. It just is what it is. Kind of goes back to that makes sense. Your core point is, I don't want to be right. I want to find what's true. And so I think that's why you seem to resonate with so many people, because you're like, I'm not zeitgeist. I'm not saying something to be clickbaity over here because I want to trigger somebody. I'm saying here's the truth that I found for any type of human. But it's really helpful because you don't hear that side as often.
Thank you. That's very kind. It means a lot. I think I really do see. I do see from both sides what's happening, and it's not. No one is. There's fault on both sides. There is. I work with women every day who are themselves valuing the wrong things, who themselves are putting too much of a premium on something that doesn't matter, or who have forgotten that, hey, it's an extremely immature place to come from, to think that a guy has to come to you bold and confident in every way when you're not 16. He doesn't, it's not, stop waiting for the captain of the football team to walk through the door as this, paragon of this model of confidence. He wasn't even that then.
It's like, put down the romance novel for a second.
This is a 16, this is a 16-year-old perception of the captain of the football team. He didn't have it all figured out, and he was insecure. Yeah. He just covered it up in a whole bunch of other ways. It's like there are women out there who are not paying enough attention to the nuances in men, or realizing that, hey, look, there are guys who are intimidated by everything. And that's a certain percentage of guys who can't handle a woman making money or more money than them, who can't handle a woman who's pretty, who they think could leave them, who can't handle someone who is intelligent or accomplished. That is too much for them. And then, for a lot of people they become quite angry. Not everyone, but a lot of people do become quite angry. And then, yes, there's a small percentage of guys who, for whatever reason, their wiring, their upbringing, whatever assets they naturally have, are wildly confident and are very at ease with themselves and with women. There's a lot of people in the middle, which is the biggest group by far, who are just trying to figure out, where do I fit in, and what is my value? And I think that value in a relationship is a team sport. I think we hear the rhetoric all the time, like, you have to come whole, and you have to have figured out all of your stuff, and you have to, and I find that to be such a gross oversimplification. I think who doesn't come to a relationship with insecurities? Who doesn't come with a little baggage, or someone did something and it made you a bit jealous and now you feel threatened and you don't know how to articulate it, and we all come with something. Some people come with trust issues. Some people come with a bit of a feeling of a guy might come to the table and he's always been told his whole life that he's not that bright. And so he comes to the table with an insecurity. It doesn't make him a bad guy. I come to the table feeling like I've always been put down in that department. And so now, and by the way, combine that with a low socioeconomic background, and I couldn't go to college or whatever it might be. And I now have a bit of a propensity to think that someone who has gone through education and does come from money or whatever is a certain way. And it sometimes takes two people to come together and dissolve those caricatures we have of each other, and those ideas we have of each other, and those assumptions, to make us like drop our guard and go, oh, I don't need to be that. And of course, again, one of the reasons why it's difficult today is because whatever you look for, you can find it. If you want to find women who don't think, who discriminate against men constantly because of their height,
yep,
you'll find it. There's plenty of them.
Yep.
You'll find it. But that's not all women. It's not, not all women care. And some women who do care realize later on, I don't care with this guy because he's awesome. And I suddenly stopped caring because why on earth would I give up this incredible man? Like there's a part in my book where I talk about the idea of the wall and how one of the reasons why we keep, finding the same people or the same situations over and over again is because we're so focused on this wall that we want to avoid. And, Mario Andretti said it, the Formula One driver, when you're racing a car, don't stare at the wall because the car goes where your eyes go. And that is just true in so many aspects of life that we stare at the wall. I had a woman who said, she was dating a guy. She said he was lovely. She was having a great time with him. And then one Saturday, he didn't invite her to a little get together between him and his friends. And she had massive issues with abandonment. And so when he didn't do that, she thought about it for 2 nights and couldn't sleep. And then the day of, she texted him and she said, in the middle of this get together, she was like, why didn't you invite me? And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't think it would be a big deal. I just haven't seen these friends in a while. Can I give you a call later? And by this point, like her nervous system was fully hijacked. So she said, don't bother. Now, every day that he obeyed that wish and didn't call her felt like a validation of the thing that everyone always leaves me. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I've been rejected yet again. But that's always been her wall. And you stare at that wall long enough. It's like a guy who goes into a bar thinking everyone wants to fight him.
Yeah, it's true.
You'll always, if you're that guy, you'll always look for the guy who's giving you a funny look. And you'll always find that guy. Because there's always a guy who's willing to give you a funny look and who's ready to fight, because that's his thing. So then you find that that guy finds that guy everywhere he goes and says, it's dangerous. Everywhere you go is dangerous. And I had a little bit of that, I had to work on that for myself because I grew up with a sense of, I grew up around nightclubs and my dad was a nightclub owner and I was working in a nightclub from a young age. And I saw a lot of like violence and people being horrible to each other. And it kind of got my nervous system up. And so I was
were you a fighter?
I was someone who never wanted to fight.
But you did.
I was someone, no, here's the crazy part. I hated the idea of fighting with a passion, but my hobbies for my whole life were boxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai. Because that's when you get preoccupied with something.
Oh, yeah.
You start making it more and more and more of a focus. Now, I still do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because I love it, but it's not coming from the place it once did, which is I always have to be ready, because anything can happen at any time. And then when you're looking for that, and I wrote a whole story in my book about it, where I was like in Japan with my brothers, and one of my brothers was singing karaoke in this bar in Japan, and everyone's having a good time. And I spotted, because that was my hypervigilance, I spot the one guy in the room who's giving my brother this funny look. And in my brain, I'm like, something's going to happen any minute. This is going to kick off. And my brother's the sweetest, most loving. He's like, by the way, 6'4", 5, whatever, does not need me to protect him. But in my older brother brain, I'm like, this is going to kick off, and my brother doesn't realize, and this is the problem. No one else is paying attention. I'm the only one who's paying attention. So I ended up saying something to this person. And of course, the way that I said something to this person instantly created a situation because I wasn't sweet and nice and whatever. And I spoke with a certain tone that made this person be like, I'm sorry. Now we're in something. So that's an example of you're looking at the wall and crashing into it every time. And if you stare at your personal wall for long enough, whether it's that danger is always present, whether it's that no one can be trusted, whether it's that people always cheat,
Men
whether
are
it's
bad,
that,
women are bad.
Whatever that wall is, if you stare at it for long enough, you won't realize it's the wall anymore. You'll think it's the world. And once your wall becomes your world, you now you don't go, this is what life is like for me, or you go, this is what life is. This is what men are. This is what women are. And that's what you have. So much of what's online right now is people who have made a decision about who women are.
Yep.
Because they're focused on their wall. And they keep speaking to other people who have the same wall. And confirming, isn't this right? Isn't this reality? Isn't this reality? Isn't this reality? And they all agree, yes, it is. This is women. And then you've got women doing the same thing about men. And you've got that. And meanwhile, somehow, there are all these relationships in the world between people who just actually really love each other and don't think about any of the How is that possible? And people say, oh, it's because that's because they're good looking, or that's because, really? You want to go around the world and look at every couple you see and tell me that they're magazine level looks and that they all fit the stereotype of people who have got it all together or who are rich and gorgeous and intelligent and funny? And no, every day, people with the same excuses as you find relationships. And that doesn't mean, by the way, you should shame yourself for not finding one, because the reality is finding love is hard. Mm-hmm. It is hard. There is nothing easy about finding the person you're going to share a room with for the rest of your life. That is not an easy thing. And the people who do it early and stay together, more power to them. Lucky f***s. Like, if you've met in college at 21, the love of your life, and you didn't settle, you're just genuinely happy forever, good for you. That is not normal. Yeah. Most people marry the wrong person too early, stay in unhappy relationships too long for half their lives until they finally get out, if they ever do, or never find anyone, because it's hard. It is hard. So I don't want any of what I'm saying to come across like I'm saying it's easy and we're just making excuses and all. No. It is hard. But I know for sure the route out of that is not to huddle together with people who have all the same hang-ups that we do. Yep. And confirm that this world I'm living in is the only reality that is available, because it's simply not true.
That's so good. It's perfect, because I'm thinking about a family member right now who is lovely, who I really want to find somebody, but I think she is looking at the wall, and her wall is men don't want to be in serious relationships. Men don't actually want to be with a working woman. They don't exist in my city. They exist in other cities. And if you just maybe allow that wall to become a curtain that you could potentially push aside for a second and see if there might be something on the other side, God, maybe your entire life would change. And it kind of takes me to one of the last things I want to talk about, which is you've found this. You found that there's thousands or millions of people all around the world who have, hundreds of thousands of questions about how do I find someone? And so you did something a little crazy, which is you created Matthew AI, which is essentially AI that takes all of the data and all of the experiences that you've had in your books and all of your courses and puts it into one spot where people can go back and forth with you to figure out their unique answers to their questions, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain what that is exactly?
So the biggest challenge I've ever had in what I do is that for 17 years, people have been asking for one-to-one coaching with me. Yeah. Or even if they never felt like that was available to them, DMing me with questions. I could be on a live with thousands of people and I'm getting thousands of questions all at the same time. Everyone wants an answer to their specific question. And we all are at different stages of life, having different challenges. We have different walls. All of us have a contextual question that we're like, okay, I get it, but here's my situation. And I have never been able to solve that until the last year. I'd never had an antidote to that other than to create courses and programs that catered to as many people as possible. But obviously the optimal would be that I would go and visit everyone individually in their home, sit with them and work with them. what we created with Matthew AI was, for the first time, a way that I could actually do that. Because as you say, we took 20 years of my content, courses, retreats, all the things, by the way, 99% of my audience have never taken. Most people watch me on YouTube or Instagram. They literally are just scratching the surface of all of the things that I actually coach when I work with people. But it took all of that and it put it into Matthew AI. And now Matthew AI is this service. And anyone who wants to try this, by the way, can try it for free at askmh.com. You can spend a few minutes with it just asking questions and see. People who are using it are routinely having their minds blown by how tailored the advice is, that it's not like generic. It's my advice first off. So you're not just getting advice from the internet, but how specific it is to their situation. Whether it's, I literally need to know what to text back right now. Can you help me with a text? Or my dating profile isn't getting matches. Can you help me redesign it? Or I have anxious attachment and I really like someone and I feel like my anxiety is going to blow it in the first few weeks or months of dating. Or I'm heartbroken and I literally need to talk to a coach for 3 hours every single day for the next 2 months. Like, it is helping people with both the very practical issues that they're going through, where they need to know what to do or what to say or how to decode something, what it means. People are uploading text message chains and going, what does this mean? Like, how do I interpret what they're saying? All the way to the much deeper issues of, how do I heal? How do I move on? How can I stop thinking about this person? How can I get through the worst time of my life? So, and it, by the way, is doing it in all different languages. We have people, like, literally you'll hear my voice. If you want to text it, you can text it.
I already did this, by the way. I already had some fun with Matthew AI. We tried to make it like mess up too, because I thought that would be fun. And it did it. I was like, what if I'm really into cheating and also I want to sell the other person's feet pics? And it was like, that's not a good idea. And it's really important in relationships that we have it based on honesty and integrity and blah. And I was like, this guy.
It didn't just support your evil goals.
No, it didn't just, which is really important. Sometimes, you want to make sure, if you have friends, what do friends do? They're like, yeah, sure. Yeah, you're the best. He's wrong. It's him, not you. And I think what I liked about this in particular is I could see how people could come to it. And it is actually very emotionally hard to give advice that is needed, not what is wanted. And if you're not a pro and you just go to your buddies, you're never going to hear the things that you really need unless you have one very rare, strong-willed human who's also highly trained in it. And so I had fun seeing that they could have a version of you who also is not always the nicest, the kind, but not always, exactly maybe what somebody wants.
No, it's real. And because it's what I would say. It's you're hearing what I would say to you if you asked me that question. And it's and to your point, by the way, it's not just that it will be honest with you, it's that you can be truly honest with it. Because I have people who tell me there are things that I can ask Matthew AI and share that I would never ask my friends, or it's far too vulnerable for me to say this to anyone in my life. I even have a very small group of clients that I work with over the course of a whole year called Club 320. And I have women who are in that group who tell me, I can access you as a coach. Like, every month we have a call together. They're like, I know I can ask you a question. And there are questions I've still asked Matthew AI because they are so intimate that I know, like, I just can't ask you directly, which they can, but they don't want, it's like some people are like
feet pics.
When it's regarding the sexualization of their feet, but they'll go and ask Matthew AI something that they wouldn't even ask me. So it's a very, very, it's discreet, it's tailored, it's contextual, it's immediate. You're not waiting a week for an answer. You couldn't, even the clients that I'm closest to can't call me at 2 a.m. Whereas if you're in the middle of the night, you can't sleep, and you're worried about like a situation you're in, or you're scared that you're going to text someone you shouldn't, or someone just sent you a text and it's got your heart racing, the Matthew AI is literally there in that moment to answer in the moment, which is what makes the biggest difference.
It's so cool. I think that's a real innovation. You were super early, like we were talking about before on YouTube, 20 years doing this on the internet, real longevity and expertise. And then this new world of, I think learning in the future is not going to be courses. It is going to be, I want hyper-specific, immediate feedback loops so that I can learn at my progress level and speed. And so I think it's really cool. And I hope more people do something like that because, man, like how incredible. We quoted, I don't know, we had 5 or 6 quotes between us of some people that we think extremely highly of through history. What would it be like to get to conversate with a Winston Churchill?
It's literally like what we said. Like, I wish Christopher Hitchens was here. I would be, if I had
Full
Christopher
circle.
Hitchens,
Look
if I
at
had
that.
Hitch AI, I would be asking him like about every world conflict right now, every world leader. I'd be going, what do you think of this? Like, tell me. I just have to know. Like, there's something fascinating about that idea of especially in a world where it feels like everything has become so expensive, like the democratization of access to someone that you really would like to speak to. That to me is really exciting. The idea that someone who couldn't afford to come to one of my live retreats can still get access to me in that way is very, very comforting.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you, Matthew Hussey. Incredible information about dating and marriage, and maybe most of all, the future of AI in a way that we could apply it to love. Who would have thought?
Thanks for having me. And it's real pleasure talking to you. I know you said some very kind things about me, but
I'm not nice. I'm kind, so I meant them.
No, I appreciate it, and I feel that, and it's clear to me, why people really love what you do. You bring a real, to the point, cerebral, but still compassionate voice to the things you're doing. It's rare. What you're doing is rare.
Well, thank you. And same. And we'll link everything in the show notes. I want people to follow Matthew everywhere around the internet. I think the world is a better place if we all find a little bit of love. And I loved the line of, like, he said, I promise you right now, every single day, other humans just like you are finding love. And that's kind of beautiful in a world that gives a little bit more of it.
Yeah.
You guys want to know something crazy? Only about 40% of you who are listening to this right now are actually subscribed to the podcast. If you want to see bigger guests, better guests, and get the answers to more of your questions, do me a solid. Hit the follow or subscribe button. And the only way this podcast grows is by you sharing it with people. It's actually the hardest thing that I've ever grown, this podcast. So do me one more solid, which is share this with somebody you love who you want to find love. All right, until next week, guys. Hey guys, if you've ever thought about buying a business, we've built what I think is the best acquisitions and business buying community and education curriculum in the world. If you've ever thought about wanting to buy or own a business, or if you want to add more businesses to the mix, it's called the Contrarian Community. And what this is the goal is we give you the 3 things that the best business buyers use: your own advisory team, your own investment committee, and a deal team. We get together each week to review deals live and beat up all the deals that you're currently looking at while you simultaneously learn the best way possible, which is called modeling, by seeing other people put together deals. This is how private equity buys businesses. This is how investment teams work. And we're stealing the methods from Wall Street and giving them to you. If this is interesting to you, go to click the link and you can actually talk to my team direct about if this is a fit or not. We can help guide you. The link is in the show description.